Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting material today on agroecologism. We're going to dive into what it actually is, why it matters, and how it stacks up against other farming methods.
Yeah, looking forward to it. The sources you sent cover a lot of ground from the basics right through to like real world projects. The idea is to give everyone a solid understanding of it as, well, a science, a way of farming, and also a social movement, really.
Okay, so let's start there. Agroecologism, in simple terms.
Right. Think of it as um, an integrated way of looking at food and farming. It combines ecological ideas with social ones. So it's about working with nature, not trying to dominate it.
Working with nature, so it's more than just being environmentally friendly.
Yeah, much more. It's definitely a science, applying ecological knowledge to farming, but it's also a practice, think organic farming, agroforestry, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And importantly, it's also a social movement, pushing for things like food sovereignty.
Food sovereignty, right? People having control over their food. Where did this idea come from?
Well, the term's been around since the early 20th century, but it really took shape later on, especially as a reaction to the Green Revolution in the 80s and 90s. People started looking for alternatives to all the synthetic stuff.
And it broadened it out.
Exactly. It grew to include the whole food system, economic aspects, social justice, politics. The UN's food agency, the FAO, they define it pretty holistically now. Sustainable agriculture, yes, but also fair food systems, local solutions.
Got it. So what are the sort of guiding principles behind it?
Um, the core ideas are generally about using resources efficiently, making the system resilient, able to bounce back, and ensuring social equity.
Okay.
The FAO lists 10 elements, things like diversity, recycling, resilience. Another group, the HLPE, has 13, highlighting stuff like soil health, which is huge, biodiversity, fairness,
Soil health seems fundamental.
absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And the overall goals, well, it's about building that resilience, shifting away from unsustainable industrial methods, promoting ecological values, and really contributing to broader sustainable development, plus empowering communities.
So how does that play out in the field? What are farmers actually doing?
They're applying ecological thinking. So practice like crop rotation, good for soil, cuts down pests. Intercropping, where you mix different crops.
Right.
Agroforestry, integrating trees, using natural ways to manage pests instead of just spraying chemicals, building soil fertility with compost and manure.
You mentioned soil health again.
Yeah.
Seems central.
It really is.
Yeah.
Managing organic matter, encouraging microbes. It's all about creating living soil. Things like planting legumes to fix nitrogen naturally, composting, vital stuff. Plus, smart water use, boosting biodiversity.
Okay, so how does this really differ from, standard industrial agriculture?
It's pretty much the opposite in many ways. Industrial ag often means huge fields of one-crop monoculture, heavily reliant on synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, which can lead to soil degradation, water pollution, the story.
Yeah.
Agroecology focuses on diversity, working with natural processes, minimizing those external inputs. It's about long-term health, not just short-term yield.
And where does organic farming fit in? Is it the same thing?
Organic is definitely a major part of agroecology. It shares the ban on synthetic inputs, the focus on soil, but agroecology is broader. It explicitly includes the social, the cultural, the economic dimensions in a way organic certification, for example, might not.
What about other terms we hear, like permaculture or regenerative agriculture?
Yeah, good question. They're all related, all part of the sustainable ag family, you could say. Permaculture focuses on designing systems mimicking nature. Regenerative ag is really zeroed in on rebuilding soil health and capturing carbon.
So similar goals, maybe different emphasis.
Kinda. Agroecology often has a stronger emphasis on the social movement side, food sovereignty, justice for farmers. It offers this sort of integrated package, principles, practices, and that social push.
Makes sense. Let's talk benefits. What are the big wins with agroecology?
Well, environmentally, it's things like more biodiversity, healthier soil that holds water better, less erosion, cleaner water because you're using fewer chemicals, and it can help with climate change sequestering carbon.
Okay, environmental pluses. What about people?
Socially, it can mean better food security, more diverse diets locally. It can boost rural livelihoods because farmers rely less on expensive inputs. And it strengthens communities, promotes equity.
And economically. Is it viable?
It can be. Lower input costs help the bottom line. Diversification makes farms more resilient to, say, price swings or bad weather. Sometimes there are niche markets for these products. It's often about long-term profitability, maybe not maximum yield this year.
Sounds promising, but what are the roadblocks, the challenges?
Well, knowledge is one. These systems can be complex. Farmers need good training, good support, maybe learning from each other.
Right.
There can be upfront costs or more labor needed, especially during the transition. And frankly, policies often still favor the big industrial model subsidies, regulations.
Access to markets too, I imagine.
Definitely. Finding markets that value these practices and pay a fair price. Plus, scaling it up, there are questions about feeding a huge global population this way, though that often involves talking about diets and food waste too.
But despite challenges, there are success
Oh,
stories.
absolutely. All over. In East Africa, there's the push-pull system for maize pests, projects in Kenya boosting yields with fewer resources, land restoration in Niger.
Wow.
In Asia, you've got groups like Masipag in the Philippines, developing climate-resilient rice, methods like SRI, reducing water use in rice farming, initiatives across Latin America, Europe, North America too, local community farms, research centers. It's growing.
So wrapping up, it really isn't just one thing, is it?
Not at all.
Mm.
It's simultaneously a science studying how these ecosystems work. It's a set of practices, the actual farming techniques. And it's a social movement pushing for change in the whole food system for justice and sustainability.
And these three things, science, practice, movement, they feed into each other.
Exactly. They're interconnected, mutually reinforcing. Science guides the practice, the movement drives adoption, and pushes for supportive policies.
Okay, so agroecologism really offers this comprehensive vision um, for more sustainable, resilient, fair food systems. We've covered its definition, principles, practices, the pros and cons, seen some examples,
Mm.
and how it relates to other approaches. It's that interconnectedness that really stands out.
It really is. And thinking about that deep interconnectedness, here's something to chew on. If you can make just one single change to our current food system to nudge it towards a more agroecological future, what do you think would create the biggest positive ripple effect? Something to ponder. Thanks for diving deep with us today.